Hello, little dreamers, and welcome to our story corner. Are you all tucked in and ready for a magical adventure? Tonight, we're going to visit a sunny land called Italy, where a kind old woodcarver named Geppetto lived. Geppetto was a master at his craft. He could carve anything out of wood-tiny birds that looked like they could fly, and brave soldiers standing at attention. But more than anything, Geppetto wished he had a son of his own. One day, Geppetto found a special piece of wood. It wasn't just any wood, it seemed to whisper and wiggle as he worked. This is the one, he thought. I will carve a little boy, a puppet, and he will be my companion. So, with his tools and a heart full of hope, he began to carve. He carved a head with a buttered nose, 2 bright eyes, and a cheerful smile. He carved a small body, 2 arms and 2 legs. He painted on rosy cheeks and a smart little outfit. When he was finished, he looked at his creation and said, "I will call you Pinocchio." As Geppetto put the final touches on his wooden puppet, a magical thing happened. Pinocchio blinked his wooden eyes. Then he wiggled his wooden fingers and kicked his wooden legs. "Father," Pinocchio chirped, his voice a little creaky. Geppetto's eyes filled with tears of joy. His wish had come true. He danced around his workshop with his new wooden son. "Pinocchio, you're alive!" he exclaimed. "I will love you and care for you, and I will send you to school just like a real boy." The next morning, Geppetto sold his only warm coat to buy Pinocchio a school book. "Now, go straight to school, my boy," Geppetto said, giving Pinocchio a loving pat on the head. "Learn all you can and make me proud." Pinocchio, with his new book under his arm, promised he would. He skipped happily down the cobblestone street, excited for his first day of school. The world was bright and full of new sights and sounds. But on his way to school, Pinocchio heard loud, exciting music. It was coming from a giant, colorful tent. A big sign read, "The Great Marionette Theater." Pinocchio forgot all about his promise to Geppetto. The show looked so much more fun than school. "I'll just take a quick peek," he told himself. He sold his new school book for a ticket and went inside. The puppet show was amazing. The marionettes danced and sang, and Pinocchio was so captivated that he jumped right up onto the stage to join them. The audience cheered, but the show's master, a big, gruff man named Fire Eater, was not pleased. He grabbed Pinocchio and locked him in a cage. "You've ruined my show," he roared. "I'll use you for firewood." Pinocchio was terrified. He cried and wished he had listened to his father. Just then, a beautiful, shimmering light appeared. It was the Blue Fairy. "Why are you crying, little puppet?" she asked in a gentle voice. Pinocchio, wanting her sympathy, told her a big lie. "I was on my way to school when a big monster stole my book and locked me in here." He fibbed as soon as the words left his mouth. Something strange happened. His nose, his little button nose, started to grow. It grew longer and longer, like a tree branch. "Oh my," exclaimed the Blue Fairy. "It seems your nose grows every time you tell a lie." Pinocchio was ashamed. He told the Blue Fairy the truth about selling his book and joining the puppet show. As he confessed, his nose shrank back to its normal size. The Blue Fairy, seeing he was sorry, opened the cage. "I will help you this time, Pinocchio," she said. "But remember, a boy who tells lies will always be found out. Now, go home to your father." Pinocchio thanked the Blue Fairy and promised to go straight home. But on his way, he met a sly fox and a sneaky cat. "Where are you going in such a hurry, little boy?" asked the fox. Pinocchio proudly showed them the 5 gold coins the Blue Fairy had given him for Geppetto. "We know a place where you can turn those 5 coins into 1,000, the cat whispered. They told him about a magical field of miracles where he could plant his coins and grow a money tree overnight. Pinocchio, forgetting his lesson about listening to strangers, followed them eagerly. They led him to a dark, lonely field. "Just bury your coins here," said the fox, "and by morning you'll be rich." Pinocchio did as they said. After he buried his coins, the fox and cat told him to go to a nearby inn and wait, but it was a trick. While Pinocchio was gone, they dug up the coins and ran away. When Pinocchio returned in the morning and found his money gone, he was heartbroken. He had been foolish and greedy, and now he had nothing. He had let his father down again. Sad and alone, Pinocchio wandered until he came to a place called Toyland. It was a wonderful place where there were no schools and no rules. Boys played all day, eating candy and riding carousels. Pinocchio thought he had found paradise. He made a new friend named Lampwick, and they had the best time of their lives. But after a few months of non-stop fun, a terrible change began. One morning, Pinocchio woke up and felt something fuzzy on his head. He had grown long, furry donkey ears. He looked at Lampwick, who had also grown a tail. All the boys in Toyland were turning into donkeys, who were then sold to work in mines and circuses. Pinocchio was horrified. He ran away as fast as his legs could carry him, braying in terror. He had to find Geppetto. He ran all the way to the sea, where he was told a sad story. Geppetto, worried sick about his missing son, had set out in a small boat to search for him, and had been swallowed by a giant sea monster named Monstro, the terrible whale. Determined to save his father, Pinocchio bravely jumped into the ocean. He swam and swam, searching for the giant whale. After a long search, Pinocchio saw a huge shadow in the water. It was Monstro. Before he could swim away, the whale opened its enormous mouth and swallowed him whole. Pinocchio slid down the whale's throat and landed in its dark, cavernous belly. And who did he find there, sitting by a small fire on a makeshift raft? Geppetto. They were overjoyed to be reunited, but they were still trapped. Pinocchio, however, had an idea. "Father," he said, "we need to make the whale sneeze." They gathered all the wood from Geppetto's raft and built a big fire. The smoke tickled Monstro's nose. The giant whale began to rumble and grumble. Then, with a mighty Ochu, he sneezed them out, sending them flying through the air and back into the sea. Pinocchio, brave and strong, held onto Geppetto and swam for shore. It was a long and difficult swim, and Pinocchio used every last bit of his strength to get his father safely to the beach. When they finally washed up on the sand, Pinocchio was exhausted and lay still. Geppetto carried his little wooden son home. He laid him on his bed, his heart aching for the brave puppet who had risked everything for him. That night, as Geppetto slept, the blue fairy appeared once more in Pinocchio's room. She had seen everything. She saw how Pinocchio had learned to be brave, truthful, and selfless. He had proven himself worthy. With a wave of her magic wand, a soft, golden light surrounded Pinocchio. The next morning, when Pinocchio woke up, he felt different. He wiggled his fingers and toes. They weren't made of wood anymore. They were flesh and bone. He looked in the mirror and saw a real boy staring back at him. "Father, father, look," he cried. "I'm a real boy." Geppetto awoke and hugged his son, his real, living son, with tears of pure happiness. Pinocchio had learned that being real wasn't about being made of flesh and blood, but about having a heart that is brave, honest, and full of love. And from that day on, they lived happily ever after. And that's the end of our story for tonight, little ones. I hope you enjoyed the tale of Pinocchio. Remember to always be brave and tell the truth, just like he learned to do. Sweet dreams, and we'll see you next time for another adventure. Thanks for listening.